The ox shall be stoned, and its owner also shall be put to death. Yep, that's in the Bible.
So this is a great example about how Jews and Christians read the same text very differently. And I don't mean to say that Jews should be privileged in terms of reading of the Hebrew Bible, that I sometimes hear that, oh, we should defer to Jewish interpretation because that's really their text. No, that's not what I'm saying at all, because I don't believe that. I think it's Jews and Christians both read the Hebrew Bible, the Old Testament, the same texts, just through very different lenses. And it's those different lenses that lend themselves to different interpretations and understandings of the text. So in this video, we have basically a reading of Exodus 21 through a Christian lens. It basically says, look at all these ancient laws, and wow, those are kind of weird and strange, and we've moved on. These laws are just simply history. They provide a snapshot in time, and we should examine our laws today in that same way. That in the future, people might look back and see the laws that we pass or don't pass today, and we provide a historical record of our values, just as the Hebrew Bible provides a snapshot of those past values. Which, is a legitimate read if you're coming from a tradition like Christianity that abrogates the law, that says we've moved past from biblical law and that we find our values in a different place. The difference is that Judaism has not, that Judaism still values biblical law and Torah law, and uses that as our starting place for understanding and interpreting the values and norms and customs and traditions today. So while we move on from the historical context of the Torah, the ideas and the values that are contained within the text are still very much alive and very much relevant. And through the reading and interpretive tradition that started with the Torah, that continues all the way through this day, we're able to arrive at new understandings of ancient texts. And even then, as kind of an aside, even aspects of biblical law or Torah practice that seem kind of rooted in history and the past, maybe they're not so much. While yes, the text in Exodus 21 kind of assumes slavery and also second-class citizenship of women as was described in the video, those are pretty much still with us. We still have slavery in various forms, and women are still second-class citizens in many ways. And in fact, one of those ways, say reproductive freedom, in which we're continually trying to legislate how women can approach their own health and their own bodies, we find roots within Judaism for a different view of reproductive justice in this exact text in Exodus 21. That while there's a variety of belief within Judaism about aspects of reproductive justice, we do find textual evidence in Exodus 21 that permits the ending of pregnancy, permits abortion, and that treats the fetus not as a full human being. Unlike in Christianity, that teaches that, for the most part, life begins at conception within a lot of frameworks that we've seen. So if you look at Exodus 21, chapter 22, when men fight and one of them pushes a pregnant woman and a miscarriage results, but no other damage ensues, the one responsible shall be fined according as the woman's husband may exact from him, the payment to be based on reckoning. But if the other damage ensues, the penalty shall be life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot. So what this is saying is that since the loss of a fetus just results in a monetary fine, and according to the Torah, the loss of the woman's life results in a more severe penalty, then the life of a fetus is not considered the same as a living human being. So while there are aspects of this text that uphold gender disparity, there are also aspects of the text that can be used to inform values related to contemporary issues. In fact, one of the examples given in the video of kind of an old and outdated law, the ox who gores another person, is in fact very relevant to understanding the laws against assault weapons that are championed in the video as well. So in the text, it says that if an ox gores another person and kills them, then the ox is put to death, but the owner is let go. The owner has no punishment. However, if the ox had been in the habit of goring, as the text says, and is warned about it and fails to guard it, and the ox then goes and kills a person, then the ox is put to death and the owner is put to death. So on the one hand, you could say, wow, this is kind of weird. Like, why should a person be put to death if their animal gores a person. But you have to look close at what's going on here. Here they're saying that if an ox happens to gore a person and you didn't know about it, and this is the first time it's ever happened, then you don't get any punishment. But, however, if your ox is known to gore other people and you know it's a dangerous ox and and you're warned about it and you're told about it and you do nothing about it and then it goes and gores another person, then you are responsible. So put that in the context of assault weapons, as was mentioned in the video, that if you have something in your society that you know is dangerous and you are warned about it and you do nothing about it and then it causes harm, well, then you need to be held liable for it. So think about this. We know that assault weapons and firearms are dangerous, that they cause harm. We are warned about it. And yet when our leaders and legislators do nothing about it, and then gun violence increases and people die, and people are murdered and die by suicide with gunshots, then there has to be some accountability. And again, the values for that are found directly in this Torah portion, in this Torah chapter. And finally, the other example that we like to point towards, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, hand for a hand, foot for a foot, which just seemingly, is mentioned from the Code of Hammurabi. It seems very, very cruel, and it's contained within this passage. And whether or not the understanding was in the context of this passage, in the context of the Torah and the Hebrew Bible, later rabbinic tradition, if you look at the Talmud, in no way reads this literally, and in fact reads the literal reading, as it were, as monetary compensation. That the rabbis of the Talmud even say that what is meant in the text is monetary compensation, even though they use that language of retribution. And so in the next level of a Jewish interpretive text that immediately follows the Hebrew Bible, we are already seeing a new understanding and a new reading of this passage. So here is where we see it distinctly as well, that Jews and Christians will read the same text, eye for an eye, neither of us reading it literally, but reading it in different ways about how we understand it. They're both understood to be, at least in the Jewish framework, it's understood to be the idea of justice. But how we mete out justice, can vary. Now, we don't want to get from a place of revenge and retribution, but we want to get to a place of fairness. And that points to the other thing, that if you really want to understand Judaism and you want to understand how Judaism understands the Hebrew Bible, then you have to study the Talmud. You have to be familiar with the Talmud. And that if you don't understand the Talmud or don't spend time reading the Talmud, studying the Talmud, or knowing what the Talmud's project is, then you're not really going to understand Judaism, and you're not going to understand Judaism's relationship to the Torah. And perpetuating this idea that Judaism is the religion of the Hebrew Bible, or the Old Testament, and Christianity is the religion of the New Testament, is erroneous. That's false. That's a false understanding of what Judaism and Christianity are. Or at least what Judaism is. I can't speak to Christianity. And so thank you. It was a great video and a great jumping off point to kind of discuss how I see the text, how Judaism sees the text, and just this general idea that Judaism is not the religion of the Hebrew Bible, the Old Testament. Judaism and Christianity kind of developed side by side, both reading the same text through different lenses. And it's those lenses that inform theology and practice and approach, especially approach to law.